Now, up to 3 times more people die by suicide in Ireland than die in road traffic accidents. The death of somebody by suicide is absolutely devastating for the loved ones left behind. And one man who knows only too well about that devastation is Eddie Dalton. In 2008, Eddie's son Shane died by suicide. He was only 23.
As part of our Time to Talk Mental Health Week, Eddie joins us to talk about Shane. We're also joined by psychotherapist Clare O'Brien to offer advice on what to do if you are concerned that someone is suicidal. You're both very welcome to the programme.
Thank you. Thank you.
Eddie, let's talk first about Shane. And I know it was 2008, but it still strikes me as being something very brave to be able to do, to kind of share this story in the hope that it will help somebody else. Tell us about Shane.
Well, Shane was 23 when he died. He was an electrician, loved sports, loved going out, loved the nightlife, loved everything. I suppose, as you would hear, sort of a lot of people would say, sort of, the last person you'd expect to do anything like that. But he qualified as an electrician, wanted to see the world, went off to Australia, and spent some time over there, and with Skype and all that, we just noticed, over a 2 or 3 month period, things had changed a wee bit, because he didn't seem as bubbly as normal. So anyway, we just left for a little bit, and after a while he came back and sort of went to the GP, said he was suffering a little bit with depression.
He wasn't himself.
He wasn't himself. So anyway, he convinced me to let him go back to Australia. He went back to Australia to where he was comfortable at that time, as we thought. And then a few months later, or a few weeks later, should I say, that we got the call to say things weren't great, and I went over to Australia to bring him home. And unfortunately, when we got him home, we just thought it was homesickness and the usual things you'd think of.
Yeah.
But anyway, he came home on a Saturday, and keen Liverpool supporter, we watched the match on the Saturday afternoon, and he just wasn't with it. Later on that evening, we were talking amongst ourselves, and we just went out for a walk or wherever, and came back, and things went right in the house, and Shane had effectively tried to take his own life at that present stage. Services came, they're absolutely fabulous, and they'd done everything they could, and unfortunately it was too late. Shane then died on the 21st of December 2008.
21st of December, 2 or 3 days before. So you buried your son on Christmas Eve, essentially. Yeah,
basically Christmas Eve was we had to go to the cemetery to bury him, which was quite tough, and at the time we had a 9-year-old daughter, right? And of course, Santa Claus was still coming.
Yes.
And anyway, it was just changed the whole dynamic of Christmas altogether for us.
And he was her big brother as well, and I'm sure she was the apple of his eye.
And he hurt as well, and it's not 2 ways about it. But it was fabulous, but the devastation that it caused, when the family
changed your whole family, your whole life.
Most definitely, at that, we couldn't believe, we were obviously in shock for the 4th period of time, and what carried us through the shock, I think, would have been all our family, obviously neighbours, friends of Shane, our friends, and they just carried us through for those months afterwards, But when the shock starts to die away, then the reality starts hitting you, and that's when it gets really, really tough. And you're nearly on your own type of thing.
Yeah, and the finality of it kicks in as well, and and then all the questions you'd have been asking yourself about what you could have done. And actually, maybe on that we'll bring Clare in that. Clare, you're very welcome to the programme as well. If you feel that somebody may be feeling this way, what are the measures that you can put in place? What should you do, basically?
So there are certain signs that you should look for. So there are behavioural changes. So somebody maybe who was previously very outgoing has now isolated themselves. There are personality changes. So if somebody is using drink or alcohol maybe when they didn't, or drink or drugs when they didn't before. There are also changes in their appearance. They might stop looking after themselves. So those are the outward signs that you can look for. But there are also other underlying signs. Sometimes when somebody makes the decision to end their own life, they can become quite calm. They may start to give away their possessions. They may go out with friends a little bit more because it's their way of saying goodbye to their friends. So that's another sign.
Because you may think, they're getting back on track, but it could be a warning sign, so to keep an eye on it.
Yes, so if their mood has been very low for a particular length of time and then all of a sudden it seems like they're coming up, that is a warning sign in itself. It may feel like it's really, really good and you may be really excited that the person seems like they're getting better, but actually that could be a warning sign in itself. So if you're aware of all these signs, the best thing to do then is to ask the person. So you can ask them if they're okay, or if you're particularly worried about suicide, just ask them directly about suicide.
All right.
You know, are you feeling suicidal? Some people get quite anxious about asking the question,
of course,
because they're fearful of offending the person or upsetting the person. But actually, realistically, a lot of people feel relieved once that question has been asked. But if the person is maybe being a bit shy about it and not being able to be honest with themselves about how they're feeling, if you present them with that evidence, like, you know, I've noticed that you're isolating yourself, I've noticed that you're drinking a bit more, you're not looking after yourself, you're not coming into work. These are signs maybe that somebody isn't feeling great. If you present that evidence, it's very hard to argue with that evidence.
And from there, I mean, if they say yes, even if they deny it and yet you still know something's not right, what do you do? Suggest that they seek help? Is it stay with them 24/7? What are the actual practical steps?
So basically, if their mental health is failing, it's advised them to seek counselling. If they're not at that point, to go to their GP or to call a helpline, something like the Samaritans or Pieta House. But if you're very concerned about suicidal ideation, then it's very important that you bring them to their GP, or if it's an immediate risk, that you bring them to A&E. If they're not with you, you need to get somebody to go to them, or you need to stay on the phone with them until somebody can get to them. That's if they're in immediate risk. It's very, very important that you don't leave them alone.
Eddie, listen to what Claire had to say there. What's going through your mind as you're hearing the advice she's giving?
Yeah, well, it's sort of, you know, well, what I'm hearing now is sort of, you know, to let people know that there is support out there, there is help. You can go to counselling, go to GP, but you can always go to the butcher, the baker, or whoever, just to go to somebody just to talk, you know.
Yeah.
And it's for the people out there to realise that if when they do ask somebody, are they feeling suicidal, or if they're feeling, you know, a bit low, to sort of not to panic, you know, so just be with them, support them, and maybe bring them to a GP, or maybe bring them to A&E, wherever. It's just to sort of, you know, to reduce that sort of shock and horror of sort of somebody is sort of, you know, feeling low.
Yeah.
You know, so and if we can do that in a lot of cases, you know, sort of, you know, because that's all a lot of people want. Really is a bit of support to let people know that there is somebody there who will listen to them, you know, and help them through whatever little difficulties or huge difficulties they're having at the time. You know, so.
And to treat it like the illness it is, and that it's something that they're going through now, but there can be treatment and they can come out the other side of it, because we've come a long way in this country even since 2008, haven't we?
Yes, a fabulous, you know, fabulous amount. You know, sort of, you know, I see it, you know, sort of now. Okay, it would be great to reduce suicide to zero. However, you know, sort of what I'm seeing is that the supports are there. They're more evident. They're out there. That you make a call. I sort of, if I go back to 2008, I wouldn't have known who to call. I would never heard of Pieta House or Aware or Samaritans. You know, sort of, and sort of, I would have just said, you get over it. You know, but you know, sort of, but that's not the way to think. You know,
and Eddie, you did so much for Shane. I mean, you went to Australia, you sought professional help. I mean, you literally did everything that you humanly could have done. It just, unfortunately, was not the happy ending in this occasion. And what about the family now, and how you are now as you... I suppose you're approaching his anniversary now, coming up in December.
That's correct, yeah, his 9th anniversary. Sort of, well, I would just like to say to people who have been bereaved by suicide, you know, that there is, you know, hope at the end. You know, so there is light at the end of the tunnel. You know, sort of, you never forget them. You never stop feeling sad. You know, sort of, and this, you know, I would always say that, you know. But I use the analogy as of the knapsack, right? You know, sort of, if you're going to a hill walk and you carry your knapsack, which is sort of the first few walks you go on, you know, sort of the knapsack is heavy. Right, but you know, sort of as you go on, and you go for more walks and more walks, right? The knapsack doesn't change its weight, but you get stronger, right? And that's, you know, that's the way I sort of use the analogy in my own head, that I will get stronger. You know, our family gets stronger, right? Another coping mechanism that we use in our family is that we bring them into the room, we talk about them, right? You know, sort of, you know, and when friends or family come, right? You know, sort of, it's at the stage now that our friends or family now sort of don't mind mentioning him, Whereas beforehand, we would always have to mention him first, to sort of, to talk about
you
the
don't want him
elephant
to
in the
be
room.
forgotten,
Exactly.
and he shouldn't be.
And he won't be. He
No.
won't be, that's for sure.
Well, you're very brave, and thank you very, very much. And to Clare for that great advice.
Hashtag Time to Talk, by the way, if you want to find out more about that on Twitter, and details of the website and other ways of making contact will be on our Facebook page as well. Now, we'll take a quick break. Join us for more Ireland AM in just a few moments' time.